Hey guys, Jonty Hikmet here. Welcome to my channel. In today's video, I want to speak about different things that may occur for you in the pain relief process using the mind-body approach, using the allowing approach that I teach on my channel, in my community. And I'm going to specifically speak about how pain may continue to arise for you in various ways along the journey, what to do about it, how it's not a mistake that it's happening, how it doesn't mean that the approach isn't working. And I'm going to explain this using my very own story of my pain relief process when I was trying to get relief from stomach pain, from back pain, 6 months in to doing the process, to learning to meditate, learning to journal, learning what the mind and body really needed from me in my relationship, in work, etc. I experienced pain in my stomach specifically that was just as bad as it always was prior to ever starting the approach. So I'd imagine I'd done 6 months of meditation, 6 months of journaling. I'd altered some things in my life with my career, with my relationship. I broke up a relationship. I'd done all these things that I was meant to do, and all of a sudden I had pain again in my stomach. And it could have been very easy for me in that moment to decide this whole process didn't work for me. All 6 months of work, everything that I've tried to do, tried to alter, it didn't matter. My stomach still hurts. It obviously must have been about food all along, and this was all a waste of time. So I'm going to speak about what I did differently in that moment and how you may very well experience moments like this, whether 6 months in, a couple weeks in, a couple months in, even a couple of years in, to continuing this type of process, this type of work that I teach here, and how to approach those situations. So in this video, I'm going to speak about expect these moments, expect that this is going to happen and why it probably needs to happen. And I'm going to speak about what to do in those moments. So first, let me just go into my story a bit more. So yes, 6 months into my pain relief process to trying to get relief, I was due to go out with my friends to see them. I can't even remember what it was for. I'm sure we were just meeting for dinner or something. But I had a really terrible pain in my stomach, like really debilitating pain in my stomach. And naturally in that moment, it could have been very easy for me to decide, God, like I've done 6 months of meditation, I've done 6 months of journaling, I've changed so many things in my life, and still the stomach pain is here. It doesn't matter what I try to do, it doesn't matter how I try and get on with my life, this pain just keeps coming back. The whole process probably just didn't work for me. And even though maybe I had very like momentary thoughts like that, I responded to the pain differently. I did what I had practiced to do for the last 6 months. And what I practiced doing for the last 6 months was I, in the first instance, acknowledged how I was feeling in that moment. And that isn't easy. Really, a lot of people that come to see me, just acknowledging how you're feeling is a whole skill that can take months in itself. Just to know, am I feeling afraid? Am I feeling hopeless? Am I feeling frustrated? What's the emotion I'm feeling? Maybe watching this, you may go, no, I always know how I'm feeling. I know exactly what the emotion is. But for a good handful of people, just acknowledging how you were feeling, including myself, was really difficult, a really difficult skill to catch because I was so invested in concentrating on the symptoms previously. I wasn't even concerned about emotions. I didn't know which emotions were there. So first thing I did in that moment, 6 months in, stomach pain, I acknowledged how I was feeling. And how I was feeling was very afraid and very frustrated, these two emotions. So, okay, I'm feeling afraid, I'm feeling frustrated, I'm feeling a bit hopeless, I'm feeling a bit of doubt. Everything that I've tried to be doing, there's a part of me that doesn't want to go out right now. So, yeah, that was part of the hopelessness. I didn't want to go out and see my friends. So first thing I did was I acknowledged how I was feeling. Second thing I did is I allowed how I was feeling. And now again, this is something I'd been practicing to do for 6 months in my meditation, in my journaling. If you've watched any of my videos or you're in my community, you know that that's what I'm teaching people to do to get relief from their symptoms. I'm teaching people to acknowledge how they're feeling and how to actually allow themselves to feel that way, to not try and soothe the emotion, to not pretend to be unafraid when we're feeling afraid, to let yourself feel fear, to let fear be in the body, to let it get as big as it wants for as long as it wants, to let yourself feel frustrated, to let the body feel restless, and how to do so in safe containers, how to do so in something like meditation, how to learn how to allow yourself to feel an emotion in stillness. That's what's particularly important, because there are modalities, wonderful modalities, that can teach you to allow emotions with movement. How to allow anger with movement, destroy things or thrash around. How to allow sadness with movement also is probably just thrashing around, really crying. But I'd practice for 6 months how to allow emotions to get as big as they want in stillness, in the container. So I knew at that point how to acknowledge how I was feeling and how to allow myself to feel that emotion in my body in stillness. I think I may have even taken a moment to myself. I'm not sure that I did a meditation. I may have journaled a bit in that moment. But at that point, I'd practiced very consistently how to let myself feel fear in my body, how to let myself feel frustration in my body, how to let myself feel doubt and hopelessness and despair in my body, how to not try and rescue those things. Because 6 months prior, I'd been using meditation because I was doing yoga and meditation before I started the mind-body approach myself. I've been using it to self-soothe. I've been using meditation to slow down the breath, to try and find a place of relaxation, to try and calm myself down. It's a lovely way to meditate. It's a lovely way to use these practices. But what I learned when I started the pain relief process is self-soothing, using meditation to self-soothe, wasn't conducive to what my nervous system needed to give me relief from the pain. My nervous system needed me to learn how to allow how I was feeling, because the nervous system wanted me to learn how to let emotions get as big as they needed to get in the body, in the mind and body. And when I'd learned to do so, that's what let energy get as big as it needed to in the nervous system and no longer have to create pain. Pain was being created in my body because I wasn't letting emotions getting as big as they needed to. I wasn't letting them disperse. I digress. I learned how to acknowledge how I was feeling in that moment, and I learned how to allow how I was feeling in that moment. Number one. Number two. Third thing I did was I had, for the last 6 months, practiced a perspective about my life that I didn't have prior to the process. The perspective I learned in the last 6 months, or I'd been practicing, was how to be more resilient, how to be more optimistic, how to decide that actually my mind and body is working for me when it's giving me symptoms. It's not working against me. Prior to starting this process, I decided that any time I had pain or anything went wrong, I was very victim. I was very like, oh, it's not working and it's terrible and everything's working against me. And I'd learned over the 6 months, not easily, how to create a new perspective, which was one where I decided that things were working for me. I decided I wanted to be the sorts of person that could be resilient. I want to be the sort of person that could limp their way to their friends, could just be like, I'm showing up no matter what. And when I first started to practice doing that within the 6 months, it was very difficult for me. And what I learned was not something I wanted to learn about myself, which was there were lots of parts of my psyche, the parts of my psyche that were reluctant to try and become more resilient and to become more optimistic. They were reluctant because they were self-sabotaging me. And over the 6 months, I'd learned that there were parts of my psyche that wanted to stay in pain, that liked the fact that I had this pain identity, that liked the fact that I got attention when I speak about my pain. It's not something that even watching this, you can even admit to yourself. Most people would say, no, surely I want to get over the pain. Surely I want my life back to how it was once upon a time. But a hard truth that I had to swallow was when I decided that I wanted to be more resilient and more optimistic, big parts of me were trying to tell me, no, don't do that. Keep in your safety zone, stay at home, don't go out, don't be more resilient, And I'd learned through going inside that these parts, with the best of intentions, were actually self-sabotaging me getting relief from pain. And I had to teach them that no, we can still be okay if we go out and about and we socialize. A lot of it had to do with the fear of socializing, the fear of going out and about, and maybe people won't like me if I'm kind of vulnerable. I had to teach these parts of me, you can go out and not be liked. You can go out and be in pain and it's fine. You can go out and it's okay. You can show up in the world. And I'd learned over the 6 months to acknowledge emotions, to allow them to be there in stillness, and I'd learned how to have a more resilient perspective. It was like, I don't care that I have pain. I'm going to go out no matter what. My mind and body is working for me. This is happening to help me acknowledge how I'm feeling right now and just be with it. Fourth thing I learned over the 6 months and how I decided to respond differently in that moment was linked to the third thing about resilience, is to get on with my life regardless of pain. I learned, again, and it ties into this third point I'm saying, that something I learned particularly through meditation and through introspective work is that life is short. I mean, it's very easy to say that, and we all understand that on some intellectual level. But something that I really learned from these allowing practices is the rising and falling of symptoms in the body, emotions in the body, and moments in our life. And the only thing we really have is each and every moment. The only thing we really have is the laughter with our friends and the enjoyment of one another. And I'd learned over the 6 months that that was more important than anything. It was much better for me to be out with my friends and to have a bit of pain and maybe feel a bit vulnerable about it than to be at home again, complaining, like really just within myself, feeling a bit depressed about the fact that I can't go out. The pain of staying at home outweighed the pain of going out. That's what happened in that 6 month period. Prior to that, 6 months ago, the pain of going out was much worse than the pain of staying in. So I would stay in. But over the 6 months, all the things that I practiced, it was a lot more painful if I were to stay at home. It's better for me to go out with the vulnerability. And because of those four things, acknowledge how I was feeling, let myself feel how I was feeling, affirm to myself that I can get through this, my body is working for me, and decided to go out, I went out. I let myself feel the emotions as I was going out. I may have even told a friend at the time, I'm feeling a bit of pain, but I'll be okay. I can't even remember at some point in that evening when I was out with my friends, the pain must have gone away. It moved. And this ties into another video I created, I can never remember, a week ago or 2 weeks ago, about indifference, about how when you do these practices for long enough, eventually a byproduct of it all is you learn to become a bit more indifferent about what's occurring for you in your mind and body. It's not something you can just decide to be overnight. It's very hard for anyone that develops chronic pain to just decide to be indifferent. But when you embark on this process and you learn to allow things, you learn to embrace the inevitability of change. You learn to embrace, or you learn to be more indifferent about things. You learn that you don't really mind as much about the unknown and the uncertainty of going out and what's going to happen. You know, am I going to be hungry when I'm going to go out? Is there going to be pain when I'm going to go out? You learn to accept the uncertainty of it and know that you're going to be okay in that uncertainty. And that's what happened 6 months in. I experienced a pain worse than I'd ever experienced perhaps 6 months prior, but I responded to it differently. I went out anyway, and at some point the pain went away. And it's such a pivotal moment for me in my journey. And it happened to me, that kind of moment had happened to me at various points within the 6 months, and maybe I didn't always respond as well as I'd responded in those 6 months. So I'm sure a month in, pain came up pretty bad, and I just stayed at home. I was like, I can't go out. This is still a bit too much for me. But something important about 6 months in was that, look, it'd been 6 months of my process. Surely logical parts of my brain were thinking, I'm never going to experience this pain anymore. I've done so much. I've had nice moments of respite from this pain. Surely I'm never going to experience this pain again. Why is it coming back? It could have been very easy for me 6 months in to decide this whole thing didn't work for me. The pain is come up again. It must be terrible. Obviously, it can be easy for you to decide that 1 month in when pain comes up again, or 1 week in when pain comes up again. But, you know, the longer you're in the process and pain comes in, the harder it is to accept that, oh, maybe this is meant to happen. And this brings me on to the second point I want to share about how what this mind-body approach really teaches you, which maybe taking a pill or just using some sort of self-soothing mechanism doesn't quite teach you, is how to be with the challenges of life. Because yes, on the one hand, the mind-body approach will get you lasting relief from pain. It will help your pain go away. It takes time, as I'm teaching you here, for it to fully go away, but you learn in your ups and downs over the months that pain is going to come and go, and I'm going to learn to respond to it differently. You learn that The mind and body isn't hurting you, trying to hurt you by giving you pain. It's usually just a couple of things that you need to do in the moment. It's just an emotion you haven't let yourself feel, maybe in the last day or two. Who knows? I can't remember what was going on for me at the time, but maybe I hadn't let myself feel fear or an anger in the days before, or maybe it could have been something completely random. It could have been that, there was just a twinge, or I hadn't slept well, or something was occurring. And my mind and body was giving me pain to remind me, hey, remember, let yourself feel fear. And I was like, oh yeah, okay. It didn't mean that I was back in chronic pain and it was back being terrible again. It just meant, in that moment, there's just something we need you to see. So yes, the mind-body approach is teaching you to deal with adversity in your life. Because if it's not pain, trust me, it's going to be something else in your life. It's going to be a difficulty in your relationship. It's going to be a difficulty at work. It's going to be a conversation you're putting off. It's going to be you haven't slept well. It's going to be you've missed a meal. You're going to have lots of challenges in life. It's going to be you feel nauseous on a plane. The mind-body approach teaches you how to not only get through pain, but it teaches you how to deal with life in more seamless ways, how to take life in your stride, how to go through life with more optimism, resilience, and ease. The whole reason pain comes into your life, at least this is the perspective that I teach, is to teach you how to go about your life a lot easier. And I'm sure a lot of people watching this were like, I would much rather have the pill. Give me the quick fix, because the pain is terrible. It's completely ruined my life. I know the process on paper, it feels like it's long. It feels like, wow, 6 months in, I'm still going to have a pain that's going to come up. But trust me, if you stay consistent with what you need to learn, allowing what's there and learning to become more resilient and learning to get to life anyway, not only does pain become a thing of the past, but you start to notice that other things in life become easier for you, other challenges in life. You can, be at them with more ease as well. So it was an important video for me to film. All the videos are important that I film. This one in particular, because you may be watching this having tried the process and you're experiencing pain again. And it feels like hopeless. And it feels like, wow, am I back at square one? Does it feel like the process isn't working? No, that's not the case. It's not. The mind and body is continually will give us pain or some sort of disharmony, even long after we've gotten through our healing. I can still experience a pain somewhere in my body. I mean, I went through that process 10 years ago. I can still experience a pain. You forget what normal is when you've had chronic pain for a while. You think normal, it's like when we break up a relationship because we should have done, and we can only remember the good times. It's the same when we have pain chronically. We think, when it was normal, it was just plain sailing. I never had any challenges. You forget that, no, sometimes you had an ear infection, or sometimes you had a cold, or you were sick in some ways, so you forget that normal is sometimes you have twinges and pains and you haven't slept. And what you're learning in this process, maybe that you didn't learn in the past, back in your normal days, is you're learning how to actually work with the nervous system. You're learning that, yes, sometimes it's just that you need a good sleep. You just haven't slept well. Sometimes you need to relax. You're overworked. But sometimes, a lot of the time, it's because you haven't allowed yourself to feel. And most people watching this have not done that. They've learned to self-soothe. They've learned to, self-soothe the tears away, or convince themselves to not be guilty, or convince themselves that they needn't feel shame. They haven't learned to actually let themselves feel those emotions in their mind and body. And when you learn to do that in stillness, and you feel safe doing so, because the reason this takes a while is because at the beginning you won't feel safe feeling these emotions. That's why having people support you is so important. But when you feel safe to acknowledge how you're feeling and to allow it to be in the body, to get as big as it wants, as long as it wants, it's a superpower. Trust me, I can be out and about anywhere now, feel tremendous amounts of fear over something that's very reasonable or irrational, and I don't try and convince myself not to feel afraid. I just let fear run all the way through my body. I let myself feel fully frustrated. I can let it happen. It feels like I'm bragging. It's a strange brag. I can let it happen while I'm talking to someone. I can feel an emotion in my body. It's not so comfortable. It's not, obviously, happiness, laughter, gratitude feels better. But I feel safe feeling these very difficult emotions in my mind and body now. And it's a superpower because you begin to notice that what may have been happening for you in the past when you weren't doing that is lots of stagnation was happening. And maybe not only did your pain become chronic because you weren't acknowledging and allowing how you were feeling for years, but maybe some of the allergies you had, maybe some of the sicknesses that you had, maybe some of the things you went through, the challenges you went through prior to having chronic pain were happening because you also weren't acknowledging and allowing how you were feeling. You had no idea how to do that. We've conditioned a whole society on how to rescue ourselves from emotions, how to fix emotions, how to actually learn to be with what's here right now. Most people in the West, at least, haven't learned how to do this. So this video was important for anyone on this process experiencing pain again. You're not at square one. The process is working for you. It's not that the process isn't working for you. The mind and body is just trying to remind you in that moment of something that you need to attend to. It could be an emotion. It could be something else in your life, sleep, career, a conversation you're putting off. In this process, you learn what to do in those hard moments. That's what really makes or breaks people in this process. I speak about the intermediate stage for people where there's lots of ups and downs. And some people can be in that for a couple of months. Some people, if they're not careful, it's years, because when they have those downs in that middle period of the process where they've learned what to do, they'll give up the meditation, they'll give up the journaling, they'll think the process isn't working for them. They'll just obsessively watch videos and not actually do the work. So you need to, in those moments, have some sort of support network in those difficult moments when you're experiencing pain. It's why I set up my community, if you're watching this in my community, so you can vent in those moments. I'm experiencing pain. Remind me what I need to do. Or this is fucking annoying. What do I do in this moment? Or just vent about it, whatever it is. The intermediate stage can become a lot smaller if you have people supporting you that have been through the process, that can hold your hand, like I'm trying to do right now, by telling you, it's okay if you experience pain in this process. You're not meant to experience pain again. You're meant to learn what to do in those moments. And 6 months into my process, I'd done such consistent practice that the pain of staying in outweighed the pain of going out. And I went out and the pain just went away at some point. Later in that evening, I can't even remember when. I remember waking up the next morning feeling so empowered. And from then on, I may very well have experienced pain again in my stomach or my back, but because of that moment that had happened, it never bothered me anymore. Indifference really heightened at that point. It just didn't matter anymore if my stomach was doing this or my back was doing that. After that specific moment that had happened 6 months in, anything after that didn't matter anymore. I was sold. I was like, this is fine. Doesn't matter if there's a twinge. Doesn't matter if the pain is as bad as it was 5 years ago when it was terrible. I'm feeling this way. It's okay. I'm going to feel this way. I'm going to get on with my day. I just got on with it. Maybe I need to sleep, whatever it is. I trusted my mind and body because of what happened 6 months in. And if you're experiencing pain, you're just a couple of moments away, a couple of different things away from also trusting your body, also becoming indifferent, also recognizing that actually nothing's trying to hurt you. That's the video. If you're watching this on YouTube, you have any comments, please share below. If you're watching this in my community, you have anything you'd like to share, please do so below. If you're going through some sort of struggle right now in the middle of the process, I'm here for you. You can join my pain relief community if you'd like. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can click the link below and join. There's a nice health assessment quiz in there for anyone that wants to join, to see where you're at in terms of your life right now. But that's it. Thanks for watching. Hopefully see you soon.